Guys, it's Miss Mangus here. I am here with another screencast for you. A lot of you have been reading books with strong characters in your ELA classes. You've been doing a unit called A Deep Study of Character. Maybe you need some suggestions for some books that have some really awesome characters. Well, I've got a couple that you might like. Let's look at the first one. Okay, we've got a book called Fly on the Wall, and the character's name is Henry Coop. He's 12 years old, and let's just say his family, they're like helicopter parents. They don't let him do anything by himself. He goes outside to ride his bike with his friends, and his family is tailgating him in their car. They think he just cannot handle life. Now, at school, things aren't really much better. His friends think he's kind of weird because of his family. He feels like he is a literal fly on the wall. He just watches everybody. And he doesn't necessarily want his life to be like that. He wants to be noticed. He wants to be important. So he decides he is going to go on the greatest adventure ever. He's going to arrange to get a plane ticket from Australia to visit his dad in Singapore. He's going to go on this trip, and he's going to go all by himself. And when he does, he's going to prove once and for all he's no baby. Now, I like this book because Henry is very funny, and he's very thoughtful about what he does. He's very similar to Greg Heffley from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, except he has a little more depth to him. He's always getting into trouble. He's always getting into a mess. He's always messing up, but he always pulls himself back up, and he comes back. He's a fun character. He's a likable character, and if you read Fly on the Wall, I think you will like it a lot. Next up is Wild Bird. There's a character called Wren. Now, she is 14. Her behavior is out of control. She has gotten into all kinds of trouble. So bad that one night about 3 o'clock in the morning, a police officer comes or a security officer comes and takes her away, arrests her. She ends up at a wilderness camp in Utah. And it's a therapy camp. It's supposed to help her work through her issues. Now, part of the therapy is learning how to survive in the outdoors. You have to learn how to get your own shelter, your own food, your own water, your own fire. Well, Wren doesn't think she has a problem, and she's certainly not going to learn how to do all of that stuff on her own. But as it turns out, she may have no choice in the matter. And this book is just a journey through her character as she goes back and looks at some of the bad things that she does. Bad things she has done, rather, and how she can make amends. So I think you will enjoy Wren from Wild Bird if you like action-packed stories, survival-packed stories. Also is Nate from Better Nate Than Ever. I love Nate because he essentially marches to the beat of his own drum. He's an 8th grader, but he's real small. He's like 5 feet tall. And he's kind of different than other 8th graders. He doesn't like gaming. He doesn't like academics. He doesn't like football. He likes Broadway plays. He wants to be a star in a Broadway play in New York. Now, he knows he's young and he doesn't really have connections, and his parents probably would never let him go to New York. So he decides he's going to run away by himself. And he's going to audition for that play by himself. He's auditioning for the role of Elliot in a production called E.T. And all through his journey, he makes discoveries about himself. He falls down. He gets himself back up. He's hilarious in what he does. I think you will enjoy Better Nate Than Ever. If you like a little action, you like a little adventure, you like a little humor, Nate is all those things in one. Next up is a book called Cub. Cindy is the main character. This is a graphic novel. It's called a memoir. And a memoir is about somebody's, a particular time in a person's life. This is Cindy's 7th grade year. It's set in 1970, which is a long time ago. She kind of is like a previous character. She just wants to not be noticed so much. So she digs into herself, and she doesn't want to be noticed by these mean girls. Basically, the mean girls have come and taken away her best friend. So she decides to cope. She's going to get a job as a reporter where she follows around a real live news reporter and writes articles. And throughout her year, she starts to excel while dealing with all kinds of other issues. I like Cindy because, like other characters, she's determined. She finds her own strengths. If you like books by Raina Telgemeier, The Smile, the sisters. You'll like this one. Next is Genesis from Genesis Begins Again. Genesis is a wonderful character. She's 13. She finally gets up the courage to bring her friends home after school. It's a big deal for her. They show up on the lawn. Genesis sees that all of her family's furniture, all of their belongings are sitting out on the front lawn. She's highly embarrassed. Her classmates make fun of her. Well, she comes from a pretty rough background. Her family has some dysfunctions. The dad has a gambling problem. Basically, they have a lot of problems. And Genesis feels like all of the problems really result from her. She feels like that if her skin tone was just a little bit lighter, like her mother's, then everything would be perfect in her life. So this is Genesis' discovery of who she really is. And she has to learn that not all of the problems in her family's life revolve around her skin color. It's a beautiful story. She goes on quite a journey from not liking herself to really accepting herself. Okay, Mia Tang from Front Desk. Mia is only 10. Her family is from China. It's kind of cool because they live and work in a motel. And even Mia, at 10 years old, has a job doing the front desk. Now, things aren't easy for her family because they're new from China. And even though her parents were very skilled, they have a very low-paying job and they have a very mean boss. And he really is just waiting for them to mess up. He wants to send them back to China. Well, Mia's not going to have that. So she's determined to do the best job possible running the front desk while her family cleans the hotel. And she also discovers there's some more families from China in her town, and she arranges to actually hide them in some of the motel rooms so they can get a good start here. This is a really good book, and I like Mia because she's so resourceful. She keeps going no matter what life throws at her. We've got Lucy from The Miscalculations of Lightning Girl. Lucy's 12, and a couple years earlier, she was struck by lightning. She survived, but as a result, this might be a good thing, her brain changed. She is a math genius. She is so smart. She can do any math problem in her head. You could give her a date from history. She would tell you what day a particular date fell on. Well, she's so smart, she stays at home. She's homeschooled. She doesn't want to interact with anybody. She actually wants to go to college, and academically, she's probably ready. But her grandmother does not want her to go to college just yet. She wants her to go to middle school. So what she has to do is go to middle school. Now you can imagine what it's going to be like for someone that has not been in middle school ever to suddenly show up. She's got a lot to navigate through, and she's assigned a special project with some other kids. I like Lucy because she is remarkable, not just with her mathematical abilities, but with her other abilities to overcome and to learn something completely new to her. Next up is Will from Turtle Boy. Will is a 7th grader, is not having a good year. He's called Turtle Boy because he likes turtles, but also because some people think he looks like a turtle. Well, he's at school and he really just wants to be left alone, pretty much. But his rabbi assigns him a community project where he is forced to interact with another boy who is basically the complete opposite of Will. Boy's outgoing, he's loud, he's excitable, and Will is paired with him to spend some time with him. Will is going to help him accomplish some items on his bucket list. This is a great story because it takes a character and it really shows how he comes out of his turtle shell into someone else. He learns to go beyond what he thinks he can do. Lots of character growth here. Alberta from The Only Black Girls in Town. Awesome novel about a girl named Alberta. She literally is the only black girl her age in her school, and she can't wait for the day where another black girl would happen to move in. Well, that happens. A girl across the street moves in who is the same age as Alberta, and she's also black. Well, Alberta hopes they're going to become best friends, but it turns out that the girl is very, very different from Alberta. At first, they don't seem like they're really going to be friends. But then Alberta starts to have issues with her own best friend, who doesn't really seem to understand where she's coming from. So Alberta and the new girl, Edie, reach out to each other and they start to become friends and they start to bond over this mystery. There are a bunch of mysterious journals in the attic of the home across the street where Edie lives. The girls work together to find out who the people are in the journals, and they start to piece together a puzzle about what life was like living in the 1950s and 1960s for people of color. Next up is a book called a book called In Some Other Life. The character's name is Kennedy. She is a senior in high school. She's smart. She's brilliant. She had this one goal of getting into this really prestigious private school. She gets in, but in order to go to the private school, she has to give up public school. And she doesn't really want to give up public school because there's a boy she's crushing on. And she doesn't want to leave him. She wants to be his girlfriend. So she decides to stay in public school. Well, it turns out that would-be boyfriend is interested in Kennedy's best friend. And Kennedy starts to wonder, what would my life have been like had I chosen that private school? Well, she gets to find out because the next day she hits her head and her whole life is laid out before her if she had made the other choice. I like this book because Kennedy makes you reflect on your life and she proves that sometimes there is no right or wrong answer. So those are just a couple of the books that we have that have some really deep characters and some stories that you might enjoy, and they are all available to you for checkout. See you soon.